On the record plan, on the approved record plan, the dumpster and enclosure was on the Lucas property. The fence was on the Lucas property. Landscaping was on the Lucas property. Now out on the Lucas property, the dumpster is on the SEPTA property. The fence extends 8 or 9 feet onto the SEPTA property. 4 or so evergreen trees were planted on the SEPTA property. So Borough Council really, and solicitor should consider, in my opinion, I'll make a recommendation that they're comfortable if SEPTA gives a letter saying it's okay with them. Is that okay with you that different utilities or facilities for the site is, are on the adjacent site?
You're saying the fence is now on the SEPTA property as built?
And the dumpster as well.
And the dumpster,
and some of the landscaping.
Okay, this is...
And the other thing is the parking, the additional parking area. It is an additional separate parking area outlined by the Belgian block. There was supposed to be 1 parking area. Now there are 2 on the site. And I understand Mr. Lucas's concern about off-street parking. I'm just bringing up the fact in my letter that it's the difference between the record plan. The record plan approved 1 parking area. The as-built plan shows 2 and doesn't show the curb delineation showing the parking area that was supposed to have been a landscaped area. So maybe when the final amended plan comes in, it makes sense from a functional standpoint, but it's a difference between the 2 plans that need to be brought to Borough Council's attention.
Well, I think there's a difference between the 2 plans. You're right, that's important. But if we could turn the clock back and say that when this was presented originally, those items would be sitting on SEPTA property, I don't think final plan would have been granted. Approval would have been granted. I don't think preliminary plan approval would have been granted. And now we're being asked, because it is built, it is completed, to do on a completed basis, as-built basis, that which we would not have probably agreed to when it was originally submitted. That's the problem I have with this process. And just speaking as one council member, Mr. Lucas, just to be perfectly frank, the process that's being suggested to you, the amended plan, isn't pro forma. It isn't automatic, at least in my mind, where the deficiencies are so great and the explanations on why it wasn't done correctly the first time are not adequate. I don't understand that.
Okay, well, the existing building that was there, it's an abandoned SEPTA property. He had trucks parked there and everything because it's all stone. It looks like it's part of the property, but it's not. He had vehicles there all along the railroad tracks. People park on that property because it's there and it's convenient. Now, I can slide my dumpster off of that property if that is what you're looking for. The fence that's on there, I think it's over maybe 6 feet. But it's an abandoned SEPTA line. I cleaned it up and maintained it, and they gave me a letter before saying I enhanced the property. I just got a new one the other day to mention all the items that you wanted me to, that they gave me a letter from SEPTA saying they did not have a problem because some people sort of pay them rent and use their ground, but it's not my ground, but they will allow me to use it. In the borough, Scott uses their train station. John Shanahan uses half of a lot of people in the borough do it because SEPTA does allow it. And that's why I went to them to give me a letter showing that they do allow it. And it's the properties there, and I'm maintaining it. I'm keeping it weed-free. I'm keeping the shrubbery trimmed. I'm keeping it clean so it doesn't become a dump site for unwanted items. And I'm trying to maintain it to keep the area clean and nice looking. And they gave me permission to do that, to maintain the property.
And I appreciate all that, and I understand all that. But here's the difference. When it comes to using other SEPTA property, which may be by rental or license or just outright permission, that's different from the situation where you as a building owner and developer come in and say, I want to do the following, here's my plan. And the plan gets approved with very specific engineering requirements and site requirements which are to be complied with under law. What we do is a good housekeeping seal of approval based upon that plan. No matter how good the reasons are after the approval, and no matter how good the reasons are when you start to build it for doing something different, you just can't do it because it seems to make sense at the time. And that's the struggle I'm having with this, because it's not just one, but it's a series of things which you've changed here. understanding that you attribute some of those to the former borough engineer. But I am greatly troubled that there's a laundry list here of things which have basically just been done in violation of the approved plan. And if it comes before me as an amended plan, I'm not necessarily going to vote to approve it because it is so radically different from what came before us originally. And I'm just pointing that out. You have a very good attorney, and I'm sure you have good engineers, but the point is we approve these things under the MPC and our ordinances for a reason, and that is the requirements are there for us to say certain things go where they're supposed to go. And if somebody can just begin to develop in deviation from that plan any way they want, then we may as well stop approving things and go back to where they were 200 years ago, which some people might think is a good idea. But until that happens, we have to require compliance. So my final word is you can come back with an amended plan, which is your prerogative. And if this council wishes to let you to do that. But again, speaking only as one council member, I'm not going to automatically say yes to that. And if I don't, and if there's several votes which it turns out don't approve it, you're back to having to comply with the original plan, which is a whole different situation now, months later. So I'm just trying to point that out. Am I making myself clear?
Yes, but I'm looking at the whole picture also. I'm going to comply and do what the borough wants because I have to. That's the law. But I have a problem with the list growing when you change engineers. I mean, Gilmore has a certain amount of credibility, and whatever Gilmore would have told the board would have been okay, because Gilmore is the engineering firm that saw what I was doing. You get another engineering firm in here, and they pick up everything that was priorly accepted by your other engineering firm, and that's a problem that I have. How can it change? Now, if Pickering Courts somehow lost their contract, you had another engineering firm, and they started something else, then I'm caught between 3 different engineering companies. And I don't think that's fair. I mean, I should have a little bit of fairness in the whole situation. I'm not trying to do anything that I know to believe is wrong. And okay, I made changes. That's why we're going to do a new as-built and submit it as a final approved plan if we can get that approved. But some of these items, I think they're just taken out of context. But, I'll do an as-built. I'll do what I have to do to comply, because that site was an ugly site, and I live in a borough. I'm just trying to run my business in here, and unfortunately, I'm not a builder or a developer. So I wasn't aware of certain things, but I will try to make them all right for you so that we can move on.
Ms. Joy.
I'd like to ask Mike a question.
The
Mike, are
microphone.
you suggesting to Mr. Lucas that he take whatever he's got on the SEPTA property off of the SEPTA property and put it on what is his property? Because, we're only going to perpetuate this.
That's mine I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to suggest anything to Mr. Lucas.
Oh, okay.
I'm not
I'll
going
suggest
to. I'm
it.
not going to tell Mr. Lucas to do anything. I will say this to Mr. Lucas: to the extent you have anything, and I mean anything, a scrap of paper, a phone message, an email, which you feel justifies or qualifies or allows you to do things which are on this list that the engineer has provided us, that you feel is a deviation from the plan you were allowed to do by Gilmore, I suggest you supply it. All right? And that includes SEPTA. SEPTA speaks for itself. I'll let your lawyer advise you and your engineer advise you. All I know is we have a record plan. If you deviate from that record plan in a significant way, then you have to have some basis for doing it. If it's a prior engineer who has told you to that it's okay to do it, then produce something which says it's okay, because I would listen to that. I think you're right. It's unfair to subject you to a 11th hour or after the fact criticism when your prior engineer told you could do it. But if you don't have proof of that, it makes it very difficult to excuse why you're not building in accordance with the record plan. That's all.